I came home early with a butcher box still cold on my passenger seat. Prime ribeyes and thick-cut pork chops from Martinez Family Meats, the kind of Friday payday tradition that makes a week of swinging hammers worth it. The steaks were perfect, marbled just right, cut thick enough to make a man feel like he'd earned something. I wasn't even through the front door when I heard Crystal's voice, low and urgent, the kind of whisper that isn't meant for daylight. "If he finds out," Crystal said, "we lose everything." And then Amber, my stepdaughter, the kid I helped raise since she was 12, answered calm as a woman reading a grocery list. "He won't. He never looks." I stood there with my hand still on the doorknob, my breath caught in my throat. And for a second, the whole world narrowed down to one simple, stupid sound, the soft click of my own key turning, like I just locked myself out of my own life. I'm telling you that moment first, because that's where it all ended. Up anyway, right there at the edge of my kitchen, hearing the truth the hard way. But the cliff I fell off didn't start that night. It started years earlier in Phoenix, Arizona, in a ranch-style house in Ahwatukee, where folks barbecue on Sundays and wave like they mean it. My name is Colton Hayes. Everybody calls me Colt. I was 45 that winter, with a bad right shoulder from too many years swinging a 20-pound sledge and a job that didn't make headlines but kept the city growing. I was a construction foreman for Phoenix municipal projects. That meant I knew what it sounded like when a foundation was about to fail. Here's what 23 years in construction teaches you. Everything looks solid until it isn't. Concrete doesn't just crack. Steel doesn't just buckle. First, there's a groan, a shift, a gap that shows up in the framework like a warning. The smart contractors listen for those sounds. The ones who ignore them, they're the ones you read about in the paper, when something collapses. I thought I'd been listening at home, too. Turns out I was wrong about that. Crystal and I had been married 12 years. She was 42, worked as an office manager at Desert Medical Billing on Camelback Road, and she was the kind of woman who remembered everyone's anniversary and forgot her own. She wasn't flashy, she wasn't cruel, she was practical. The kind of practical that made sense when you're building a life with someone. Steady income, good with money, never caused drama at family gatherings. At least that's what I told myself whenever she got sharp with me about money, or told me I was too soft with Amber. Looking back, maybe I should have paid attention to how often those conversations happened, how often Crystal worried about what we could afford, what we couldn't, what Amber needed that we somehow had to provide. Amber was 27 then, Crystal's daughter from her first marriage to a guy named Clayton who lived out in Tucson and showed up when he felt like it, which wasn't often. I showed up every day. I paid for her community college when Clayton disappeared for 8 months without sending a check. I taught her how to drive stick shift in the empty parking lot behind Home Depot because Crystal was too nervous to do it herself. I sat in uncomfortable plastic chairs at her graduation while the Arizona sun tried to cook us all alive, wearing a button-down shirt that made me look like I was going to a job interview. When she graduated with her marketing degree, I cried harder than Crystal did. Not because I'm sentimental, because I'm not usually, but because it felt like proof that all those years of trying to be steady meant something. That showing up mattered. That being the dad who stayed when the real dad left actually counted for something. So, when Amber called me dad, I believed it. When she hugged me goodbye after Sunday dinners, I thought it meant what it looked like. When she asked my advice about jobs or boyfriends, or whether she should move out of her crappy apartment, I gave it like a man who thought his opinion mattered to her. Funny how wrong you can be about people you've lived with for 15 years. That Friday, the day I came home early with the steaks, started like any other. It was mid-December, the kind of dry cold that makes the mountains look like they're painted on glass. I'd been up since 4:30 because we had a concrete pour at the new fire station on 7th Avenue. And December pours in, the desert are tricky business. Too hot during the day, too cold at night. The timing has to be perfect, or you end up with concrete that looks good but won't hold weight when it matters. Kind of like a marriage now that I think about it. By noon, we had the pour locked down. The crew was solid, mostly guys I'd worked with for years, men who knew the difference between doing a job and doing it right. The concrete was smooth, the grade was perfect, and the project supervisor was happy enough to cut us loose 3 hours early. "Hell of a job, Colt," he said, signing off on the work order. "See you Monday." By the time I climbed into my F-250, my shoulders felt like they were full of gravel, but it was the good kind of tired, the kind that comes from building something that'll still be standing in 50 years. On the way home, I passed Martinez Family Meats off Indian School Road, the place Crystal loved because Miguel Martinez always threw in extra chorizo for the Hayes family, and because his steaks were cut thick enough to make a meal feel like an occasion. Crystal liked the ribeyes, said they reminded her of the steakhouse her dad used to take her to when she was little. Amber had a soft spot for their marinated flank steak, always said Miguel's seasoning was better than anything she could make herself. It had become a small routine, my peace offering after a long week. My way of saying, sorry for being tired, for being gone 12 hours a day, for sometimes falling asleep on the couch while they talked about their days. I walked in, the bell over the door chiming, and the AC hit my face like a blessing. The place smelled like garlic and cumin and charcoal, like Friday night and payday and everything good about coming home. For a moment, I was just a tired guy buying meat for his family, a guy who worked hard and came home to people who were glad to see him. Miguel behind the counter smiled. "Colt, you're early." "Poor finished ahead of schedule," I said, and he laughed like he'd heard that line 100 times. "The usual? Make it extra special," I said. "It's been a good week." He threw in some of his house-made chorizo without being asked. "For Crystal," he said with a wink. I drove home with the cooler beside me, thinking about how Crystal would roll her eyes and say, "You're spoiling us," and how Amber would pretend not to care, but always grab the first steak when I fired up the grill. That's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't announce itself. It waits until you're feeling generous. I pulled into the driveway at 3:27. I know because my truck clock had been running fast since summer, and I'd stopped trusting it. I glanced at my phone out of habit. 3:27 exactly. Crystal's Honda was there. That surprised me. She usually didn't get home from the medical billing office until after 5. I carried the cooler up the walkway, the steaks heavy in my hands like a promise I was about to break without knowing it. The air smelled like creosote and dust. The porch light was on, even though it was daylight. Crystal did that sometimes when she was home early, like she didn't want the house to feel empty. Funny thing is, it was about to feel a lot emptier than she ever imagined. When I opened the front door, I stepped into quiet. No TV, no radio, just the faint hum of the refrigerator and the tick of the wall clock Crystal had bought at Target because it looked southwestern and made her feel like we had style. I hung my work jacket on the hook by the door and took one step toward the kitchen. That's when I heard them. Crystal's voice first, coming from the kitchen like it was leaking through the cabinets. "If he finds out," she whispered, "we lose everything." I didn't move. I didn't breathe. My hand tightened around the cooler handle until the plastic bit into my palm. In construction, when you hear a sound that doesn't belong, a crack, a groan, a shift, you stop everything and listen. Your life might depend on what comes next. Amber answered from somewhere near the table. "He won't. He never looks. Never looks." That phrase hit me like a dropped beam. They weren't just talking about hiding something from me. They were counting on me not to look, banking on me being too tired, too trusting, too stupid to pay attention to what was happening in my own house. Crystal's voice shook. "Colt isn't stupid." "He's not," Amber said. And there was something almost fond in her voice, like she was talking about a family dog. "He's just busy. He doesn't want to fight. That's why this works." That's why this works, like they'd discussed this before, like they'd figured out my weaknesses and decided to use them against me. I stood there listening to my stepdaughter explain to my wife why I was the perfect mark for whatever they were planning. There was a scraping sound, chair legs on tile flooring, a paper rustle. Then Amber again, quieter, but with absolute confidence. "Mom, you did the right thing. We didn't have a choice." Crystal sighed, and I could picture her the way she looked when she was worried about money, hands pressed flat on the table, shoulders tight with stress she tried to hide from me. "I hate lying to him." "It's not lying," Amber said, and the ease in her tone made my stomach turn. "It's protecting him. Protecting us." Protecting us? From what? From me knowing the truth about my own life? From me having a say in decisions about my own house? I felt something cold settle in my chest, like ice water in my veins. I glanced down without meaning to, and that's when I saw it. On the edge of the kitchen counter, half covered by a dish towel, there was a folder, a manila folder with a bright yellow sticky note stuck on top. The note had my name on it in Crystal's handwriting, neat and careful, like she was labeling something dangerous. Colt, do not move. My throat went dry. Do not move. Like I was evidence in a crime scene, like I was something that needed to be handled carefully, so I wouldn't break whatever plan they had going. Crystal's voice went on, and now I could hear the panic in it, raw and sharp. What if Dave at the credit union calls? What if they mail something here instead of to your apartment? Amber made a sound like she was annoyed by Crystal's worry. They won't call the house, everything's online, and you already changed the mailing address. Change the mailing address. My mind tried to grab hold of that phrase, but it slipped through my fingers like water through a cracked foundation. I felt my heartbeat in my ears. I could taste the metal dust from the job site, and suddenly it made me sick. Crystal spoke again, and there was real fear in her voice now. Amber, please tell me you're sure this paperwork is okay, that the signature... It looks like his, Amber cut in, and there was pride in her voice. Actual pride. He signs 1,000 work orders a week. You think he's going to compare signatures? You think he's going to notice? Signature. My knees went weak. I swallowed, and the sound felt loud inside my own head. They'd forged my signature on paperwork that involved changing mailing addresses and worried phone calls from the credit union. They'd used my name, my credit, my trust, and they were sitting in my kitchen talking about it like it was a successful business deal. Crystal lowered her voice even more, like she could make the words hurt less by saying them quieter. If he finds out, we lose everything. And then, like a bad echo, Amber repeated it back with the kind of confidence that made me colder than the Arizona winter ever could. He won't. I should tell you something about me. I'm not a yeller. I'm not a man who throws punches or smashes dishes when things go wrong. I spent my whole adult life building things. And you don't build anything worth having by swinging a hammer wild. You build it by staying calm, by figuring out where the weak point is, by shoring up the foundation before the whole structure comes down. But standing there listening to the two people I loved most in the world discuss how to defraud me, I felt something I'd never felt before. It wasn't just anger. It wasn't just hurt. It was the cold, calculating feeling a man gets when he realizes he's been at war without knowing it, and it's time to start fighting back. So I did the only thing my body would let me do in that moment. I stepped back, slow and careful, like I was backing away from a gas leak. Because that's what this was. Something dangerous that could explode if I handled it wrong. The floorboard under my boot creaked. Both voices stopped instantly. Silence fell over the kitchen like a dropped tarp. I froze. My heart hammered so hard I thought they'd hear it through the walls. Then Crystal called out, trying to sound normal but missing it by a mile. Colt, is that you? I couldn't answer. If I opened my mouth, I wasn't sure what would come out. A shout, a sob, something ugly that would give away everything I'd just learned. I tightened my grip on the cooler. My fingers were shaking, not from fear, but from the effort it took to keep myself from walking into that kitchen and demanding answers I wasn't ready to hear. And that's when the stupid thing slipped. The cooler hit the hardwood with a soft thud. Not loud, but loud enough in a house where everyone was pretending everything was normal. The lid popped, and one of the ribeyes slid out in its white butcher paper, like it was trying to escape the scene of whatever crime I'd just discovered. I stared at it. I actually stared at a $20 steak on my floor, like it was the most important thing in my life. Because right then, I needed something simple to focus on, something I could fix. I bent down slowly, my shoulder complaining, and picked up the steak. Cold juice from the paper clung to my thumb. Behind me, footsteps approached, Crystal's slippers, soft on the wood, coming to investigate the noise. I didn't look up. Colt, she said gently, like I was a spooked horse. Honey, you're home early. I set the steak back in the cooler. My hands were clumsy. Everything felt wrong now, like my whole afternoon had been contaminated. Yeah, I managed, my voice coming, out rougher than I wanted. Pour finished early, got the crew out ahead of schedule. Crystal knelt beside me, helping close the cooler lid. She smelled like vanilla lotion and copy machine toner, the same smell she'd carried home from work every day for 12 years. Oh, she said, too bright, too cheerful. That's good. I still didn't look at her. I couldn't. Not yet. Over her shoulder, I saw Amber in the kitchen doorway. She had her arms crossed, her face carefully blank, but her eyes were sharp, measuring, calculating. watching to see how much I'd heard, how much I knew, how much damage control they were going to need. She smiled, and it didn't reach her eyes, the kind of smile you give someone you're lying to. "Hey, Dad," she said. Dad. The word hit me like a punch to the gut. How long had she been calling me that while planning to steal from me? How many Sunday dinners had we shared while she was figuring out how to forge my signature? How many times had I given her advice about her life while she was busy ruining mine? "Hey," I said back, and I hated how normal I sounded, like everything was fine, like I hadn't just heard my family planning my financial destruction. Crystal stood up, smoothing her blouse with hands that shook just a little. "You didn't have to bring steaks. Miguel had them ready," I said. I cleared my throat. "Thought you'd like them?" Amber walked over and reached into the cooler like nothing had happened, like I hadn't just heard her talk about forging my signature and changing my mailing address without permission. She grabbed one of the ribeyes and held it up to the light, examining it like she was checking for quality. She said, nodding approval. "Still the best in Phoenix." I watched her examine the meat, my meat that I'd bought with my money as a gift for my family, and I realized something that made my stomach twist harder than anything I'd heard in the kitchen. They were acting. Both of them. This whole scene, this concerned wife and grateful daughter routine, it was all performance, and I was the only one who didn't have a script. The worst part? They were good at it. If I hadn't overheard them, I never would have suspected. Crystal's worry about me being tired, Amber's casual affection, their easy chatter about weekend plans. It all looked exactly like normal family life, because they'd been practicing. They'd been lying to me so long they'd gotten comfortable with it. So I nodded once, like I was fine, like I believed them. Then I picked up the cooler and carried it into the kitchen, right past the manila folder with my name on it, right past the yellow sticky note that said, "Do not move." I set the steaks down on the counter and forced myself to smile. "I'll get the grill going in a bit," I said. "Let these come up to room temperature first." "Perfect," Crystal said, already reaching for the wine glasses. "I'll open that Cabernet we've been saving." Saving for what? I wondered. For celebrating the success of their fraud scheme? "Sounds good," I said instead. Amber had moved to the refrigerator, pulling out vegetables for a salad. "Should I make my famous garlic bread?" she asked. Famous garlic bread. Like she was still the beloved daughter, instead of the woman who just described me as someone who never looks and doesn't want to fight. Like we were still a family instead of whatever this was. "Sure," I said. My voice sounded steady. That felt like a victory. They bustled around the kitchen, preparing dinner, chatting about their days. Normal family conversation. Crystal talked about a difficult client at work. Amber mentioned a job interview she had lined up for next week. I made appropriate responses, asked follow-up questions, played my part. But inside my head, a different kind of voice had started up, quiet, steady, and colder than Crystal's whisper. "All right, Colt, you know there's a problem. Now you need to find out how bad it is." After dinner, I excused myself to check something in the garage. Standard Friday night routine. Organize tools, check the air compressor, plan weekend projects. But tonight, I sat on my workbench in the dark and tried to think. 23 years in construction had taught me how to approach structural problems. You don't just start swinging a sledgehammer. You assess the damage first. You figure out how deep the rot goes. You make a plan before you start tearing things apart. This felt like the same thing, except the structure that was failing was my life. I pulled out my phone and started a notes app. At the top, I wrote, "What I know." Then I listed everything I'd overheard: forged signature, changed mailing address, credit union involvement, fear of me finding out, Amber handling the paperwork. Then I started a second list. What I need to know. How much money was involved, what exactly they'd signed my name to, how long this had been going on, whether there were other loans, other schemes, other lies. The garage smelled like motor oil and sawdust, familiar and comforting. But for the first time in my adult life, my workshop didn't feel like a refuge. It felt like a place I was hiding while my world collapsed around me. I deleted the notes and put my phone away. If they were smart enough to change mailing addresses and handle everything online, they were probably smart enough to check my phone if they got suspicious. Tomorrow, I decided. Tomorrow I'd start digging. But tonight, I had to go back inside and pretend everything was normal. I had to sit on the couch with my wife and stepdaughter and watch TV like I wasn't planning to destroy both their lives. I didn't sleep that night, not in the way people mean when they say they tossed and turned. I lay there flat on my back, staring at the ceiling fan as it made one slow, tired circle after another, listening to Crystal's breathing beside me like it was coming from another house. Every few minutes, my mind replayed the same words over and over. If he finds out, we lose everything. But now I was starting to understand what everything meant. And it wasn't just money. At some point after midnight, I slid out of bed without waking her. The floor was cold on my feet. I stood in the hallway for a long moment, listening, making sure both Crystal and Amber were asleep. When you've worked construction as long as I have, you learn the sound of a building at rest. The house was quiet in that deep, honest way. No footsteps, no voices, just the tick of the thermostat kicking on and the distant hum of the water heater. I padded into the spare bedroom we used as an office, moving like a man defusing a bomb. The door creaked just a little. I winced and paused, heart pounding, but nothing stirred. I turned on the desk lamp and shut the door behind me. The light fell on a mess I'd ignored for years. Stacks of old tax returns, instruction manuals for appliances we no longer owned, birthday cards Crystal couldn't bring herself to throw away. In the corner sat the filing cabinet, a dented beige thing I'd picked up from a job site surplus sale for $30. I pulled open the top drawer, folders slid against each other with a dry whisper. Utilities, insurance, medical, mortgage. My fingers hesitated on that last one. Easy, I murmured to myself, the way I did when setting a tricky beam. Slow and steady. I took the mortgage folder out and laid it flat on the desk. The original paperwork was there, just like it should be. My signature, Crystal's signature, dates I remembered. I felt a small, foolish surge of relief. See, my brain tried to say, you're imagining things. Then I opened the second drawer. That's where the newer stuff was supposed to be. Recent tax forms, insurance updates, bank statements. But the first thing I saw was a thick envelope from the credit union, folded and creased like someone had been carrying it around. Desert Community Credit Union, the same place Crystal and I had banked since before Amber got her driver's license. My hands shook slightly as I pulled out the paperwork. The letterhead was official, clean, serious. My eyes went straight to the words printed in bold, secured loan agreement. My chest tightened. I picked up the document, and the numbers swam for a second before settling into place. Loan amount, $85,000. Interest rate, 7.2%. Term, 15 years. And then the line that made my stomach drop through the floor. Collateral, primary residence at 2847 Desert Vista Drive, Phoenix, AZ. Our house, my house. 12 years of 6 a.m. starts, overtime shifts, skipped vacations so we could pay extra on the principal. The place where I'd replaced the entire HVAC system myself to save $8,000. The place I planned to grow old in. I flipped the page. There it was, my name, my signature. Or something that was supposed to be. I leaned back in the chair and closed my eyes. For a long moment, I couldn't breathe. It felt like someone had dropped a steel beam on my chest and decided to see how long I could hold out. I opened my eyes again and studied the signature like it was faulty electrical work. It wasn't right. Close, sure. Close enough to fool a quick glance from a busy loan officer. But not right. The C leaned too far back. The tail on the T was too short. The pressure was uneven, heavy in places where my hand usually lifted. It was like looking at a weld that had been rushed, tight enough to hold for inspection, but doomed to fail when real stress hit it. I didn't sign this, I whispered. The words hung in the air, useless but necessary. I kept digging, another statement, then another. Email printouts and address change confirmations. Amber's apartment address on Scottsdale Road, the place I'd helped her move into last year, carrying boxes up 3 flights of stairs in August heat because I wanted her to have a fresh start. I checked the date on the address change and felt something in my chest go cold. 4 months ago. 4 months they'd been doing this behind my back, routing my mail to an apartment I paid the security deposit for. The next folder made everything worse. Bank statements showing automatic payments I'd never authorized. Insurance documents with my forged signature. A home equity line of credit application that someone had filled out in my handwriting, except It wasn't my handwriting, just someone doing their best impression of it. I glanced at the door, half expecting Crystal to burst in and demand to know what I was doing, but the house stayed quiet, indifferent. Everyone sleeping peacefully while I discovered the scope of their betrayal. By the time the sun started creeping through the blinds, my eyes burned and my head throbbed. But I'd learned what I needed to know. This wasn't just one loan, this was a systematic scheme to use my credit, my property, my name to solve problems I didn't even know existed. The business Amber had mentioned, apparently it was real, and apparently it was failing. The marketing coordinator job she'd been bragging about. Based on these documents, she'd been let go 6 months ago and hadn't told us. The interview she had next week, probably another lie to buy more time. I put everything back exactly where I'd found it. The folders went back in the same order. The drawer slid shut with the same soft resistance. I turned off the lamp and stood there in the dark office, listening to the house wake up. Crystal was already in the kitchen when I came out. Coffee brewing, the radio on low, tuned to the local country station that talked more about weather and traffic than politics. Same routine as every Saturday morning for 12 years. She smiled when she saw me. "You look tired." "Didn't sleep great," I said. It wasn't a lie. Amber came. Amber, out of her room a minute later, hair pulled up, phone in her hand. She gave me a quick hug like she always did, like she hadn't spent the last 4 months defrauding me. "Morning, Dad." "Morning," I said, and my voice didn't crack. That felt like a small victory. I ate my eggs, I drank my coffee. I listened to them talk about weekend plans. Crystal wanted to hit the farmer's market. Amber needed to run errands. Normal family conversation. But every word felt like it weighed 50 pounds. After breakfast, Crystal grabbed her purse. "I might be late tonight," she said. "Month-end reports are due Monday." "Okay," I replied. Amber waved. "I've got stuff to do too. Probably won't be back until evening." They left together, talking and laughing about something I didn't catch. The front door closed. I stood there alone in the kitchen, staring at the counter where the manila folder had been yesterday. It was gone now, hidden wherever they kept the evidence of their crimes. I exhaled slowly. "All right," I said to the empty room. "Time to build a case." That afternoon, instead of going to the hardware store like I'd told Crystal, I drove to Desert Community Credit Union. It sat in a low stucco building near a strip mall, same as it always had. I'd walked in there 100 times without thinking twice. Depositing paychecks, getting cashier's checks, the routine business of a man who pays his bills on time. This time, my palms were slick on the steering wheel. Inside, it smelled like carpet cleaner and printer toner. A flat-screen TV in the corner played muted news about traffic accidents and weather. I didn't go to the counter. I sat in the waiting area with a copy of a pamphlet about retirement planning and watched people come and go. A young couple opening their first checking account. An older woman cashing a Social Security check. Ordinary life moving along like nothing was wrong. Like somewhere in this same building, my name hadn't been forged on documents that could cost me everything. Finally, I recognized a man stepping out of an office down the hall. Dave Rodriguez. He was older than me, early 50s, with graying temples and the kind of steady handshake that came from 20 years in banking. We'd known each other since Amber was in high school. Not well, but enough. His son had played baseball in the same league as some of the neighborhood kids, and we'd crossed paths at the VFW post more than once. I stood. "Dave," I called softly. He looked up, squinted against the fluorescent lights, then smiled. "Colt Hayes, haven't seen you in a bit. Got a minute?" I asked. He studied my face for half a second longer than polite. Something in my expression must have told him this wasn't a social call. "Yeah," he said slowly. "I think I do." He waved me into his office and shut the door. The space was small, neat, professional. Family photos on the desk, certificates on the wall. The office of a man who took his job seriously. "What's going on?" he asked, settling behind his desk. I took a breath. I didn't dump everything on him at once. I just slid the loan statement across his desk, the one I'd photographed with my phone that morning while Crystal and Amber were out. Dave's eyes dropped to it. His smile vanished like someone had flipped a switch. He read it once, then again, his expression growing more serious with each line. "Did you sign this?" he asked. "No," I said. He nodded like he'd expected that answer, and that scared me more than anything else had so far. "I thought not." he said quietly. You've seen this before? Not this exact document, but... He leaned forward. Colt, how long have you known about this? 2 days, I said. How bad do you think it is? Dave sighed and leaned back in his chair. Depends on what you want to do about it. He tapped the paper. This isn't just a family disagreement. This is fraud. Federal crime-level fraud. I felt my shoulders sag just a little. They said... I stopped myself. I overheard them talking, my wife and stepdaughter. They think if I find out, we lose everything. Dave shook his head. People say a lot of things when they're scared and in over their heads. He met my eyes. But here's the truth. You don't lose everything by finding out. You lose everything by letting it continue. We talked for another hour. Dave explained the process, the options, the likely outcomes. None of it was good news for Crystal and Amber. All of it was necessary if I wanted to save my house and what was left of my financial future. When I left his office, I had a plan. More importantly, I had allies. People whose job it was to catch exactly this kind of crime. The confrontation happened on a Tuesday morning, exactly 1 week after I'd come home early with the stakes. I'd spent 7 days gathering evidence, taking photos, building an unshakable case. Every document copied, every conversation recorded when Arizona law allowed it, every detail verified and cross-referenced. I called Crystal's office and told them she had a family emergency. I called Amber and told her we needed to talk immediately. I scheduled the meeting at the credit union for 10 a.m. in Dave's office with a fraud investigator present. Crystal and Amber arrived separately, both looking confused and worried. When they saw each other in the bank lobby, I watched them exchange a look, quick, guilty, calculating. They knew something was wrong, but they didn't know how wrong. Dave met us at the door of the conference room. Thank you all for coming, he said formally. We're here to discuss irregularities in the secured loan account for the Hayes residence. Crystal sat down heavily. What kind of irregularities? I opened my folder, thick now, organized, tabbed like a construction project manual, the kind where someone forges my signature and uses my house as collateral without my knowledge, I said calmly. Amber went pale. Crystal's hand flew to her mouth. Let me show you what I found, I continued, sliding documents across the table. This is my real signature. This is the forged one. This is the address change form I never signed. This is the email account I never opened. I kept going, methodical and thorough. Every lie, every deception, every crime laid out in black and white. Dave took notes. The fraud investigator asked pointed questions. Crystal started crying. Amber sat silent, watching her world collapse. The loan will be declared invalid, Dave said finally. The property lien will be removed. Criminal charges are likely. After they left, separately, no longer speaking to each other, Dave walked me to the parking lot. You okay? He asked. I thought about it. Yeah, I said. Better than okay. 6 months later, I'm writing this from my workshop behind my house. The house I almost lost, the house I fought for and kept. The loan was invalidated. Amber pled guilty to fraud and is making restitution payments. Crystal and I are divorced, but we're civil about it. The house feels different now. Quieter, cleaner, more honest. I've got new locks on all the doors and a security system that alerts me to any unusual activity. But mostly I've got something more valuable than security. I've got the satisfaction of knowing that when someone tried to steal my life's work, I didn't just roll over and take it. If this story sounds familiar to you, if you've ever trusted someone who was planning to betray you, if you've ever been told that asking questions would make you the bad guy, if you've ever been made to feel guilty for protecting what's yours, let me tell you something important. You're not wrong for wanting honesty. You're not selfish for protecting your assets. And you're sure as hell not the bad guy for refusing to be stolen from, even by family. Sometimes the foundation cracks. Sometimes the people you trust most are the ones trying to bring the whole structure down. When that happens, you don't patch it and hope for the best. You tear it down to the studs and rebuild it right. Trust me on this one. I know how to build things that last.